The following is a paid program. Talk 103.7 WTIP and Cable Channel 7 welcome you into Financially Speaking with Jim Taunton. Find us live on radio, TV, the IPX Media app, and on YouTube. Just search Financially Speaking NC or get the link at WTIPFM.com. The opinions expressed in this show are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities and investment advisory services are offered through Genoa Wealth Management Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC. Now, here's your host for Financially Speaking, certified financial advisor, Jim Taunton.
Hello and welcome to Financially Speaking. Jim Taunton here, your host for the next 30 minutes. Thank you for joining. Wouldn't be much of a call-in show without people calling, would it? I haven't had a lot of callers lately, too, and I need callers. I've left a lot of space in the program for callers, and I'd much rather talk to you about something that you feel is important and pertinent to you personally. Love to answer a question. So we're going to go to our first break here in a minute. If you will call during that break, we'll take your call first when we come back, and the number here is 561-TALK, 561-8255, 561-8255. And I'll be glad to take your call first when we come back. And if you call with a question, your name goes into the drawing for the dinner for two at Tavola. I'll even pay the tip. Great place to eat. I ate there at least once, if not twice during the week. So I'd love to send you there to eat. So call me with a question. Probably the only show out there that gives you a chance to win something because you ask a question, not that you answer a question correctly. And there are no stupid questions, just stupid answers. So call with your question. 561-TALK, 561-8255, and we'll be right back in a minute.
Aiden Golf and Country Club invites you to become a member. Come tour our beautiful clubhouse, ballroom, and facilities. For a quality golf experience, sign up for our discounted special membership rates. Low monthly dues with no quarterly food minimum or assessments. Folks love to play golf at Aiden Golf and Country Club. Cool off at the pool all summer. Enjoy excellent food and beverages from the snack bar. Even store your own cart, unless you like to walk. Call 746-3389 for special limited membership rates at the Aiden Golf and Country Club.
My practice has been built on accessibility, responsiveness, and a willingness to be proactive for my clients. I'm not afraid to make recommendations relating to your investments and planning. I do hope all of your financial decisions are good ones, but let's not rely on hope. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Jim has attained 3 professional designations: Certified Financial Planner, Chartered Life Underwriter, and Chartered Financial Consultant, which entails 20 courses of study with examinations and a comprehensive national board exam, administered by the Certified Financial Planning Board. Jim has been practicing in financial services since 1979, which includes investing, planning, and insurance to help you meet your financial goals. Among the many awards Jim has received in his career is his selection to the Guide of the Top Financial Planners by the Consumer Research Council of America. So if you want to work with someone who is working for you, call Jim at 756-4700 or email him at planning@financiallyspeaking.com. That's 756-4700 and planning@financiallyspeaking.com.
All right, welcome back to Financially Speaking, and my producer, Mr. Phillips, says we don't have a caller. So I will start with the information I've put together, but I'd much rather talk to you than monologue. So call me anytime during the program. 561-TALK, 561-8255. Would love to put you in the drawing for the dinner for two at Tavola. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the Fed. Fed has been in the news. Federal Reserve, by the way, is what we're talking about. People call them Fed. Okay. They are, by the way, not part of the federal government. They are an independent body. And there are a lot of politicians that have an issue with that. I'm not smart enough to figure out if it's a good or a bad thing, to be honest with you. But the Fed raises and lowers rates to control the economy, essentially, to make sure that job growth is there and to make sure that that inflation is tame. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But what's even more exciting is we have William from Hertford who has called in. William, go right ahead with your question.
Yes, sir. I was listening to your program with your son the other day, and you were talking about the Medicare parts, and it was brought up that you are no longer allowed to have a private insurance with your Medicare program. You're basically forced to go on to the Medicare program. I have TRICARE Prime as being retired military. Would that affect me as well?
That's a great question.
Because
I would love to. I'd love to say
are on TRICARE Prime.
Yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I would think not, because that is also a government-sponsored program. You would think they would not be in conflict with one another, but I couldn't tell you for sure. I can tell you that I am very much aware of not having private insurance when you go on Medicare, because when I went on Medicare, my cost tripled, basically. Let's see, maybe more than that. I had gone with an entity that was very inexpensive to cover the catastrophic losses. And because I'm still working and intend to work basically till I drop dead, my income hasn't reduced. So I'm actually paying the maximum you can pay for Medicare. So my cost is about $600 a month, and my wife pays about $600 a month. So that's $1,200 per month we pay for Medicare. And it's because they're penalizing me for making money. And yours would not be that much, and hardly anyone else's would be that much either, because it's based on income. But it's a good question, and I wish I could answer you specifically, but I can't. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying is TRICARE is a fairly, program as well. So, all right. Well, I appreciate your help, sir.
Yeah, I hope you gave your number to the producer when you called in.
Yes, sir, I did. Thank you.
Okay, so you're in the drawing for the Identifitude Ontivola. Or we could find something else for you in Hertford if need be. I don't know how often you get to Greenville.
We go down there a couple times a month. It's not that far of a drive.
Okay, well, good. That'll serve you then. Thanks for calling in.
All right, thank you, sir.
Take care. It's a good question, but I am not the proverbial Medicare expert. I'm not an expert on Social Security. I have a working knowledge of Social Security and the other things. Actually, my administrative assistant, who doubles as my wife, has more knowledge of Medicare than I do. She actually went through the process with her and myself, getting us on that. And believe it or not, I'm actually starting Social Security in November. It's incredible. I don't feel old. Don't think I'm old, but it's time to start drawing. Will have passed my full retirement age, so it's really no reason not to at this point, even though I'm going to continue to work. So because of my income, it'll create taxation on 85% of the Social Security. So what, I'll still be left with a lot more than I would have had. All right, numbers 561-TALK, 561-8255 if you want to call me with a financially related question. All right, there's let's see, I was talking about the reasons that the Fed raises or lowers rates, and there are various reasons. It's not the same reason each time. But typically when the Fed lowers rates, it is either because the economy is looking stagnant and they want to avoid recession, or they're coming off of a period of raising rates and they're above what they would feel like would be the nominal or the average rate that they need to be at. And that's where we are right now. The economy is not looking like it's on the brink of a recession at all. And I've told you that for a year and a half that we weren't headed for recession. Nothing has shown itself to indicate that we're going to recession. Matter of fact, the yield curve is even de-inverting now, which people were pointing to as the indicator for recession. But that's not true either. So we're not going to have recession. So what the Fed is trying to do is normalize interest rates. That's what they're trying to do. And there is an adage that I've shared many times on the program, but it's been around for decades and decades. And the adage is, don't fight the Fed. Don't fight the Fed. Jim, what does that mean? Don't fight the Fed. Well, I'm going to give you the bottom line, then I'm going to give you a little more detail. Bottom line is, when the Fed is increasing interest rates, it is typically a risk-off environment for investing because it's not a good time typically for stocks. And it's not typically a good time for bonds either. So don't fight the Fed means you don't invest in things that would do poorly in an increasing interest rate environment. On the other hand, don't fight the Fed on the other end of the equation is when rates are going down, the Fed is reducing interest rates. It is risk on. That means you want to be in investments that do better with lowering interest rate environments. And certainly stocks would fall into that category. So typically what we're going to be in beginning in September is what most people believe. There's probably 100% chance right now that they're going to lower rates in September. We don't know if it's going to be a quarter or half, 75. I would definitely not bet on 75. I think it's 50-50 between a quarter and 50 basis point reduction. But it looks like they are going to reduce rates. So I had said on this program several months ago, I didn't believe rates would be raised or lowered, for the remainder of the year. Well, they're going to start about 3 months earlier than I expected. But I was more right than wrong because even the beginning of 23, I said they would not begin reducing rates as early as people thought. Beginning of this year, people were actually projecting 6 or 7 rate cuts this year. And I thought that was ludicrous. They just had not been enough time for the interest rate increases to work through the economy and to see what it was going to actually do. And the Fed needed to see data. Well, they've seen enough data now, and they are saying that there is a rate cut on the table for September. It's not a done deal according to the Fed. It's a done deal according to the market measures and everyone that looks at these things. I can't find anyone that says that we're not going to have a rate reduction in September. What that means is if we start an environment of reducing interest rates in September, and if we adhere to the old adage, don't fight the Fed, that means that it's going to be a good period for the stock market. So you can do with that what you wish. Just take that as information, talk to your financial advisor and determine if there are any changes that need to be made. If you've got dry powder, you got some cash, talk to your advisor about whether it's a good time to get that cash in the market. And we'll see what happens with that. But Jim, how accurate is that? I mean, don't fight the Fed. It seems somewhat broad. And yes, it is broad. So I wanted to give you some information, historical data, that would show you why people say don't fight the Fed. If you had something that you could utilize in your investment portfolio and it had an 86% historical accuracy, 86% historical accuracy, would that be something that you might implement in your strategy? Yeah, I think it would. Well, let's take a look. How will the stock market behave when the Reserve starts lowering rates? There have been 14 rate cycles since 1929 where the Federal Reserve has been in a reducing interest rate mode. 14. 12 of those 14 rate cycles where the Fed was reducing interest rates saw positive S&P 500 returns for the 12-month period following the first rate cut. That's where we get the 86% number. 12 divided by 14 is 86%. 12 of 14 cycles since 1929, the stock market has been positive for the 12-month period following the first rate cut. How positive, Jim? Glad you asked that question. Let's take a look. 29, they started rate reductions. The market was positive 3.3% for the next 12 months. Of course, you know, the 29, they were coming off the stock market crash, so people were still quite jittery. February of 1954, they started a rate reduction cycle. The next 12 months, the market was up 35.1%. In 57, they started another rate reduction cycle. It was up 31.2. 1960, after the first rate cut, it was up 15%. 67, after the first rate cut, it was up 4.6. 1970, it was up 13.3 after the first rate cut. 74, it was up 33.5 after the first rate cut. 1980, it was up 20.3 after the first rate cut. 1984, it was up 20.4 after the first rate cut. 1989, it was up 11.4 after the first rate cut. 1995, it was up 21.1% after the first rate cut. The two anomalies come the next two rate cutting cycles. And I'm going to tell you what was going on at that time. Remind you, 2001, the market was down 13 after the first rate cut. You remember what that was? That was the bursting of the dot-com bubble. That was a fundamental flaw in the market. I have actually removed my advisory clients' assets from the market and gone to cash temporarily twice in my 45-year career. And one of those was May of 2002, during the dot-com bubble crash of the market. All right, the next period where we were actually down was 2007. The market was down 17.6 after the first rate cut. What was that? That was what people labeled the Great Recession. It was the worst recession in history. And some say the markets were worse than they were during the Great Depression because all asset classes went down during that period, the end of 07 through 08. Stock market was down close to 50%. Painful. And that's why it was down 17.6. The Fed was doing everything they could do to bolster it. And what caused that issue? That issue was caused by the subprime mortgage market issue, which was exacerbated by the administration at that time, who was Bill Clinton, demanding that mortgage lenders provide mortgages to people that did not have good credit, could not afford to make the payments. And that was a large part of that issue. And these subprime mortgages all of a sudden hit the fan. People didn't make the payments, houses were forfeited, and on it goes. It caused the mortgage or the housing market to drop like a rock. Worst in history. And that was the domino that started it all. So, and hopefully we've learned from that. And then the last rate reduction cycle that we have before the current one was 2019. After the first rate cut, 2019, the market was up 8.7%. So you get an idea of how consistently the market has gone up the 12 months after the first rate cut. Let me remind you, everyone believes the first rate cut this time around is going to be September. Historically speaking, with 86% accuracy, what's going to happen between September of 24 and September of 25? Exactly. Certainly not a guarantee. There's no guarantee of future results based on historical returns. Absolutely not. But man, we have to use history as our guide. Typically, there's no other guide that we can utilize because nobody can tell the future. We don't know if the future is going to be different than the past. There's no way for us to figure that out ahead of time. So I would say, it bodes well anyway. Let's just say that. It bodes well for the market for 2005. And I'd already said on this program that most of the consensus of the people that I listen to and read and what have you, that I trust, the consensus was that 05 was or 25 was going to be a positive year in the market, even before the word that they may start reducing rates in September. So, take that for what it's worth. All right, we've talked well past the midpoint break. Let's take a break right here. But listen, call me during this break, and I'll take your phone call with your financially related question when we come back. The number here is 561-TALK, 561-8255. It's area 252-561-8255. And I'll talk with you in a couple of minutes.
Aiden Golf and Country Club invites you to become a member. Come tour our beautiful clubhouse, ballroom, and facilities. For a quality golf experience, sign up for our discounted special membership rates, low monthly dues with no quarterly food minimum or assessments. Folks love to play golf at Aiden Golf and Country Club. Cool off at the pool all summer. Enjoy excellent food and beverages from the snack bar. Even store your own cart, unless you like to walk. Call 746-3389 for special limited membership rates at the Aiden Golf and Country Club.
My practice has been built on accessibility, responsiveness, and a willingness to be proactive for my clients. I'm not afraid to make recommendations relating to your investments and planning. I do hope all of your financial decisions are good ones, but let's not rely on hope. Let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.
Jim has attained 3 professional designations: Certified Financial Planner, Chartered Life Underwriter, and Chartered Financial Consultant, which entails 20 courses of study with examinations and a comprehensive national board exam, administered by the Certified Financial Planning Board. Jim has been practicing in financial services since 1979, which includes investing, planning, and insurance to help you meet your financial goals. Among the many awards Jim has received in his career is his selection to the Guide of the Top Financial Planners by the Consumer Research Council of America. So if you want to work with someone who is working for you, call Jim at 756-4700 or email him at planning@financiallyspeaking.com. That's 756-4700 and planning@financiallyspeaking.com.
All right, Jim Taunton back with you. Let me just double check here. Yeah, no new callers. What does raising or lowering rates do anyway? Why is that good or bad? When the Federal Open Market Committee, the FOMC, changes the interest rate, it impacts both the economy and the stock markets because borrowing becomes either more or less expensive based on the direction they're going with rates. And that affects corporations and for individuals and for businesses. You know, it makes it more expensive than when the rates go up to buy a house, for an equity line,
Caller,
on and on. Yes, sir. Oh, okay. I got you. Jerry, thank you so much for interrupting the monologue. I appreciate it. You're right here with your question.
Yes, Mr. Thornton, I enjoy listening to you. I'm not that sophisticated, so I try to find someone that is.
Neither am I.
I just wondered if I know this might be off topic, but the Canadian rail strike that has happened, I was just wondering if you would have any views on the repercussions that are inevitable for the United States on that subject.
Yeah. Great question. And I heard about the rail strike this morning on the news. I actually haven't done any research on the rail strike to see how deep and wide it's going to have effect. But the phrase that I heard, which makes me shudder, is supply chain issues. We definitely could have some supply chain issues because of this rail strike. Let's hope they get it rectified very shortly. The supply chain issues that we experienced because of COVID, in addition to all the money that the government pumped into the economy, those are the two factors that cause this inflation problem that we have right now. And it certainly has been subsiding, but we do not want any more supply chain issues. But I haven't heard any details. Have you heard any details?
No, and that's my concern. I haven't heard anybody even mention it about repercussions or whatever.
Right.
And that's what kind of upsets me. Well, we're just going to wait until it all drops.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't hear much about it for the rest of the day today. And, I'm constantly getting newsletters and updates and listening to financial people. So that is interesting. Now, I'll tell you what I'll do, Jerry. I'm going to make a note. And if it's still an issue by next Thursday, actually, I'm not going to do a live program. Darn. There's something going on with the station, and I can't do a live program next Thursday. They're going to rerun tonight's program. But let me do this. Let me give you my email, Jerry. And if you will email me and just put a note in there, rail strike in Canada, and I'll know you're the caller, and I'll do some research and email you, and we'll communicate privately about that. I'll be glad to provide you some information. And I appreciate you calling. I've got music in my ear. That means I'm out of time. So, as always, this is Jim Taunton helping you make all of your financial decisions good ones. Good night, everybody.